which currently in this country is 2.5 years. And then it is called internal STEM of internal medicine. And after STEM of internal medicine, in theory, you can go to any internal medicine subspecialty. But we speak about cardiology today, so I will stay with cardiology. And within this 30 months, you undergo 6 months of acute cardiac care. So you spend 6 months in coronary care unit or other intensive care unit where acute cardiac cases are treated. And so 6 months and 24 months on different other internal medicine departments. After those 30 months, you go to the second level of this specialty training, and you spend another 30 months in a dedicated cardiology department. In Europe, this has to be accredited cardiology department, what means that these departments are in hospitals, usually in large hospitals where full cardiology service is available, including pacemaker implantation, including coronary angiography, coronary angioplasty, and so on. In Czech Republic, we have around 20 such centers. They are in all university hospitals and in all regional hospitals, the big regional. We have 13 regions in Czech Republic, so each of these 13 regions has at least one training center for cardiology, like České Budějovice, Karlovy Vary, Zlín, and so on. Even these cities where no university exists or no medical school exists. This training is specialized in subspecialty of cardiology. So, for instance, in our department, the training looks as follows. When a student is interested to work with us, he or she is approaching us few months before graduation, usually in January, February, and then we undergo some discussions, and if we agree on cooperation, then this person starts work with us after summer, usually in September or October, and then these people go through rotation. So during the first 30 months, they rotate through internal departments plus cardiology, and during the other 30 months, they rotate only within cardiology through acute cardiac care, through echocardiography and imaging, through arrhythmology, through interventional cardiology, and angiology. So we have these 5, we call it divisions of cardiology. And after 5 years, the person goes to undergo board certification and becomes cardiologist. When a doctor becomes cardiologist, then he or she can of course decide. Currently in Europe, there is enough possibilities for cardiologists, so it is absolutely no problem to find a job as cardiologist. And so, for instance, in our department, every doctor which undergoes this board certification usually is leaving the department and finding a job elsewhere, and we admit another newcomer, another new graduate on this free place. So this is the rotation system we have. Only few of them are staying with us if they are interested to do academic career, so if they are interested to research. So these colleagues, they do simultaneously cardiology specialization and PhD studies, and they do some research, and when they are good in research, then they can stay with us in our department. So I think this is the general introduction, and I would really prefer if you have questions, and I will answer your questions, please. Yeah.
About the difference, I guess, in the learning curve or the duration of learning between interventional cardiology and non-interventional cardiology. How is it different?
Yeah. Well, in general, interventional cardiology is a kind of subspecialty of cardiology, which is a little bit more advanced than the general cardiology. So in Czech Republic currently, interventional cardiology is just recently established subspecialty officially. So we will have, it is not yet running, but starting next year, we will have special board certifications from interventional cardiology. So it will work as follows. After 5 years, the doctor becomes cardiologist and has to undergo another 18 months of training for becoming interventional cardiologist. This differs from country to country. Usually, in many countries, it is possible to start this specialization during cardiology training. So, for instance, out of 5 years, you can spend 6 months or 12 months in the cath lab by starting practicing, and you continue after graduation from cardiology board certification, few more months, and then you become independent interventional cardiologist. Usually, as in most technical disciplines where you work with hands, it is dependent on your tutor. So each young doctor who wants to become interventional cardiologist has a tutor, and this tutor is responsible for him or for her, and continuously works with her under the supervision, and this person decides when you are allowed to do this and when you are allowed to do a little bit more, and so on. And when this tutor comes to the conclusion that the person is ready to work independently, then the tutor signs the paper and the person can work independently. Usually, for instance, it depends on number of patients you did. So for the mean numbers are approximately like 500 diagnostic coronary angiograms and 100 percutaneous coronary interventions with stent implantation. And of course, you have to be able to manage all complications. So you have to know a lot about acute complications, how to manage them, and so on.
So if you specialize more, does that mean that your financial profit from it is also higher than the non-interventional cardiologist?
It's difficult to say. It is of course different from country to country. Usually, interventional cardiologists are slightly better paid because it is something which not everybody can do. For becoming a good interventional cardiologist, you need to have a good head with not only knowledge but ability to make the right decision very quickly. This is even more important than your hands, because in the cath lab you are working with situations where you have some dramatic situation. If you make wrong decision, even with gold hands, the patient will die. So you have to do the best decision, and you have sometimes few seconds to do the decision. So the head is very important, the way how you think and how quickly you think. And also, of course, you need to be handy, you need to have good hands. So my experience is that good people for interventional cardiology are those who are clever and doing some sport. In our cath lab, everybody is doing some sport, because the people who are doing sport, they usually are a little bit handy. So it's a good combination. Yes?
I was just wondering if you could tell how normal day of a cardiologist is, like from 8 to 4. Yeah.
What, normal day?
Yeah, like how is the day of a cardiologist, like when you...
It's not from 8 to 4, it's 20. Definitely not. It's 24 hours. Yeah. Well, this is important topic. This question touches a very important topic. If you are willing to work 8 hours a day and to have a lot of free time, don't go to interventional cardiology. Definitely not. If you want to have free time, you can do cardiology with the aim to become cardiologist in a polyclinic, doing echocardiograms, and then you can have quiet life and a lot of free time. But if you go into acute cardiac care, into hospital cardiology, into interventional cardiology, you should be prepared to spend more time by that. And I think this is a general problem of all specialties, not only cardiology, also surgery or any other specialty where you are working in medicine with hands, that the more you do, the better you are. So if you work a lot, then you are better. It's like if you are an ice hockey player. Why Jaromír Jágr is the best ice hockey player? Because he is working twice more than the others. When the training finishes at 8, he is still 2 hours there alone and training more. And that's the secret. So if you want to be good in interventional cardiology, you just have to work more than the others.
Cardiology is friendly for women, especially women who want to have more kids, like 2, 3.
This is good question. Also, I know few excellent interventional cardiologists, female, but it is much more difficult for them just because of time. That's of course that's obvious. That's understandable. So it's like in any other surgical specialty. In all surgical, basically, interventional cardiology today is more close to surgery than to classical internal medicine. And all these surgical disciplines, they are very time demanding. And the key is really that if you have 2 persons with equal capacity, with equally clever, equal hands, then the better person will be just who does more patients. That's it. You have more practice, you are better. And of course, if a female wants to have 3 kids, she needs some time to spend with the kids, and men have a little bit better position. I'm sad to say it, but that's life. So that's probably why many females, we have a lot of doctors in cardiology. Even I think we have a little bit more females than males, but few of them are willing to do interventional cardiology. Also, it has something to do with the age, because the best age when you train these hand disciplines, these manual disciplines, the best age is when you are young. The younger you are, the more easy you can learn it. If you become doctor at 25, you want to have 3 kids, so you spend, let's say, next 6 years by half work, half kids. So then you start train after 30, and this is already not late, but it's disadvantage compared to a 25 years old person. Yeah. And if you are 40, it's probably too late to start with interventional cardiology. Yes?
Let's say we want to become an international cardiologist, right? And I'm, let's say, in first or like second, third year of our medical school, right? Is it better to start our practice even now and exactly at the cardiology department, or according to your experience, or is it good to go in different departments, such as, like, for example, anesthesiology and like any others, like general surgery? Which is better? Which is way better?
Both ways are good. If you are a medical student, you need to have broad view. So of course, if you want to do something extra on top of your routine studies, then you have to decide for some focus. So you have to focus. But if you think about cardiology, of course, you have to focus on those disciplines who are close to cardiology. So anesthesiology is an excellent idea, or intensive care in general. It's excellent idea. Yeah, it's excellent idea. But definitely, if the questions are about interventional cardiology, then this is something what probably should not be decided during the university years. This is too early. You should, if this is something what you want to do, you have first to go through the classical channel. And if we admit a new doctor and he or she is interested to do interventional cardiology, of course we register that interest, but we will allow this only after in the 3rd or 4th C-shop training. So in the later phase of training, not in the beginning. And although what I have to mention is that I am working here, as I said, so many years, and in some responsible position as head of cath lab or head of coronary care unit and later head of department, I am working like almost 30 years. So during those years, I had in the cath lab like 20 or maybe 30 people, and approximately half of them was not suitable for this specialty from different reasons. Some of them realized themselves and said, okay, this is not for me. Few of them did not realize, and we had to explain them that they are not good for this subspecialty. So this is a peculiar thing, and really you have to be open-minded and self-critical. And of course the results speak for you. I give for instance one example which happened many years ago. We received a young doctor for training, and he was working with us in the cath lab under supervision, and he did coronary angiograms. At that time he did like 100 coronary angiograms, and he was very self-convinced that he is already good, that he is able to do coronary angiogram. Then he did one complication. He perforated coronary artery with catheter, dissected coronary artery, and his reaction was not, I made a mistake, I have to fix it, but his reaction was, this was already there, I didn't do it. And in that moment he finished for me, you know, because you have to be critical and you have to recognize your own mistakes and be able to repair them. But if you do not admit that you made a mistake, the patient will die before you understand the problem. Yeah.
How often are those complications occurring?
Fortunately rare. In coronary angiography, kind of non-fatal complication occurs, let's say, in one patient out of several hundred. And fatal complication of coronary angiography is today extremely rare. It's like one patient out of 10,000. In coronary angioplasty, it is much more frequent because, of course, in coronary angiography we put catheter only in the ostium of coronary artery, and the catheters today are very soft and they don't make much damage. For coronary angioplasty, when we work already inside the coronary artery with guide wires, with balloons, with stents, sometimes with rotablators, so in this situation it's more likely, more probable that you can create complication, especially if the coronaries are calcified. If the coronary arteries are calcified, they are prone to rupture, and then this happens, I mean the fatal complications happens, let's say, in one patient out of 200 or 300. So it's like 0.5% or something like that.
I wonder, like, what's your spectrum of different places that you can work as a cardiologist? Is it mostly in the cardiology department, or do you have any? Like, can you be used in different places?
Yeah. Well, the spectrum is quite broad. Starting from the most simple situation, as a board-certified cardiologist, you can have your private ambulance with electrocardiogram, exercise testing, echocardiography, Holter monitoring. So these non-invasive methods, and this can be quite a rewarding job and relatively stable, quiet job where you have a lot of time because you are deciding about the volume of your outpatient setting, how many patients you see, and so on. This is the most simple situation. Then you can work in a small district hospital or city hospital where there is no interventional cardiology, no pacemakers implantation, but there is some small cardiac ward like acute cardiac care, few beds for acute cardiology, and so on. And you can work partly in this small hospital and partly in your private outpatient polyclinic. These are quite frequent cases in cities like, for instance, Kutná Hora, Kolín, Český Krumlov. So cities which have small hospitals and small internal department with few cardiology beds, let's say. This is second possibility. Then you have third possibility to work in a tertiary cardiac center like our hospital. As I said, there are about 20 in this country, and usually worldwide, one cardiac center is serving population around 300,000 up to 700,000 population. The lowest density of cardiac centers, I think, is in Denmark, and they have one center per million population, if I have good information. But mostly in Europe, it's one center about for 500,000 patients. So that's the service area, and then you can go to academic institutions where you have to do research. So if you want to work in academic institution like this university hospital or some research institution, then you have to do, besides your clinical practice, you have to do research and teaching and so on. Of course, if you do this all, it's very interesting. So you see patients, you do a lot of interesting procedures, you teach students, you do research and so on. But of course, it's time demanding. If you go this way, you should realize that you have almost no free time. So it depends how much you love the job.
About how many hours a day are we talking then?
About myself? I give you, today it is less. I am 65, so I try to little bit go down but in the past it was sometimes really 24 hours a day. When I started acute angioplasty program here, I was trained for it in the Netherlands, and I came back. And the first 3 months, I was here 3 months continuously. I went home rarely, and I was available for every acute myocardial infarction patient coming in during 3 months. So you should be a little bit crazy to do this. But if you are such crazy, after 3 months, you know it quite well, because you have seen many patients, and you obtain fantastic experience. During those 3 months, I obtained experience which normally I would get 3 years. So this is always individual decision.
Is that intensity what young doctors struggle with the most? This very high workload, or is there any other challenges that young doctors usually face?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Like, is this high workload of 3 months working?
No, this is exception. I was crazy. That was crazy time in my life. I was divorcing, so it was not a problem for my family and so on. So it is not normal to put 3 months continuously. But what is normal that you have, for instance, if you do interventional cardiology, you need to be on call for acute patients continuously. The department has to fix every acute myocardial infarction the whole year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long. And if, for instance, the department is doing 800 angioplasties per year, so the caseload per operator, per interventional cardiologist, which keeps the competence, is approximately 150 to 200 procedures per person. So if the department is doing 800 per year, optimal situation is that there are 4 interventional cardiologists, maximum 5. So if you are 4, you have to be there 1 weekend, and you have to be there 1 day per week. So that was how we were working for many years. We were working in the group of 4 interventional cardiologists. So I knew that I am on call every Tuesday, and I am on call 1 weekend during the whole year. And during the summer, when colleagues had vacations, sometimes 2 weekends per month. So you have to always realize this. But of course, there are, in some countries, there are private cath labs, which in my view are absolute nonsense, because cardiology is acute setting and you have to do the full service, including acute cases. Private cath labs are in Germany and in a few other countries, which are working only during the daytime. And of course, that is something close, with the time rule, is close to ambulance echocardiography, non-invasive cardiology. But in my view, this is wrong. I think cardiology is primarily a service for acute patients. And if you speak about different cardiac diseases and about the treatment modalities, you should realize that where you improve prognosis, where you really prolong life, these are acute situations. If you treat chronic patients in cardiology, you may improve their symptoms, but surprisingly, you will not so much prolong the prognosis. The prognosis is set by acute cardiac care, including acute interventional cardiology situations, of course. Yes?
That interventional cardiologist must engage his whole life, 24 hours daily, to his like.
Of course, it's a little bit exaggeration.
Like, yeah, but I mean, like, generally. But you have achieved a lot of.
If you want to be good.
Yes, definitely. But like, and you said that you've been through all this, like, all this path, but at the same time, you've achieved a lot in like you're a head of the department, you are our like the dean of our faculty and so on and so forth. So you have a lot of extra activities. How is like activities? I don't know how to like.
Yeah, I understand your question.
And you also did some important research and wrote books.
Yes, and the research, and like you're the most cited person, like.
Best will be if you ask my wife. I come at home in the evening. Usually I come home before 7 o'clock in the evening. We spend with my wife 2 hours by seeing a film or discussing or talking. And then I go to my working room and I work another 3 hours in the evening. So I work always during the weekends. For every holidays, I take my laptop with me and I'm working during holidays. So I love it, so it's not a problem. You must love it. If you don't like it, you should not do it, of course. You must be a kind of fanatic.
Do you still work on some research right now?
Right now, I am supervising some research. With my own hands, I'm not doing any research anymore. The key decision for me was whether to apply for this dean position, of course. When I decided to apply for dean position, I had to give up some things, and something of this is the price which I had to pay for it.
Yes, by the way, how does this dean position affect your professional life?
A lot. Well, I would never run for dean position when I will be 45.
Okay.
When I was running for dean position, I was 63. So I said, well, I educated my younger colleagues to that level that I allowed them last year to treat my own heart. I think that's the best answer. So I think I cannot offer to my patients more than my colleagues, because they are as good as I was always. So what I can offer to this institution more is my experience. So that's why I made this decision. And of course I gave up a lot of international obligations. I was involved in European Society of Cardiology in different positions, so I decided to stop it completely. And what I gave up was my work in cath lab. So when I was elected as dean, I stopped working in the cath lab. So I'm not anymore working in the cath lab. And that's how I find time to work as a dean.
Do you miss it? Do you miss the cath lab work?
Well, that's life. That's life. I miss it, of course. The working cath lab was my love, but I was doing it since 1990, so like almost 30 years or 27 years. And cath lab is also radiation. And when I was working 3 months in a line, as I said, and then next 3 years we were only 2. So I was every second day on call. So of course that was thousands of patients, and of course a lot of radiation. So I think I received so much radiation during my life that it's good in this age to stop. So there are several reasons.
You don't plan to return to it ever?
Never say never. But probably not.
So, do you think there is interventional cardiology, or even the neurosurgeon should stop? Like,
Excellent question. Excellent question. My philosophy is that I should stop on the top, and I hope this is what I did. I would not be happy if I will see that my younger colleagues will be better than me. So that's also among the reasons why I made this big change in my professional life. Probably this time is somewhere between 60 and 70 years of age, but it's very individual. Biologic age is very much different from calendar age. So for somebody 55 years is maybe already enough. For somebody 70 is still okay. Yesterday I was speaking with Professor Jan Pirk, who is our most famous cardiac surgeon. I was sitting in his office for half an hour, and he is in such an excellent shape, and he's 70. And I'm sure he can operate still many years because he's just physically and mentally perfect. So we cannot say any number. It's somewhere between 55 and 70, or maybe even over 70.
Do you still have a consulting role for all the younger doctors here in the hospital?
Of course, yeah, of course.
You can go there all the time? And just
I am there every day, of course. Yeah, I am still head of the department, so I'm there every day, and every morning we discuss difficult cases. And I can give you another interesting example how we work. This was a recent case. It was a lady, and she was in our department. And every morning we are discussing patients who may become candidates for cardiac surgery. These patients are usually examined in cardiology department, and they're discussed together with cardiologists and cardiac surgeons. And this meeting we have every morning at 8:30. And this is when all cardiologists are sitting there, plus at least one cardiac surgeon is coming to discuss the cases. And that lady was presented by one of my colleagues as candidate for biopsy of pericardium because of some unclear tumor in the pericardium. And that was a very specific case where I don't want to spend time by many details, but the case seemed to me quite complicated and unusual. So I said, stop. I don't agree with this indication. I don't want this lady to undergo even small cardiac surgery with pericardium biopsy. And I want first to know what is the problem of this lady. I don't believe it is a tumor. And then I organized a meeting of 4 professors from different internal specialties, Professor Kozák from hematology, Professor Kršek from second internal department, and Professor Rychlik from first internal department, and me. And we sit together in my office and discuss the case during 1 hour, in every single detail. And we came to conclusion that really there is no tumor, that so far we don't have firm diagnosis, but the possible diagnosis is histiocytosis X. And we planned how to come to confirm this diagnosis, and it is now ongoing. So this is the way how I work now, that I am kind of consulting complicated cases with my colleagues. Yes?
Could you tell us a bit about how did you get involved with the European Cardiac Society?
Yeah, good point. When I was a young doctor, still before I received full board certification on cardiology, I was from the very beginning I was interested in academic career. For me, it was something very attractive because it's so colorful that you do so many things. You do research, teaching, medicine, and I was dreaming about going for training to one prestigious institute outside the country. And in 1990, when the communistic system finished and the border was open, I succeeded to get fellowship for young doctors from the European Society of Cardiology to spend 1 year in Erasmus University in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And that influenced my life a lot. because I met very interesting people there, and I have seen how far we are behind and how much we have to improve. And
Sorry, we is Czech Republic or is specific?
yes, we as Czech Republic in that time, 1990. Today we are in the same level as Netherlands. And I met there a lot of colleagues, not only Dutch colleagues, but also from other countries, because that center, thorax center in Rotterdam, was in that time probably the best center in Europe, very famous. It is very good still today, but today there are many excellent centers in Europe, but in that time that was quite unique in Rotterdam. So I met there something like 20 different foreign fellows who came like me to learn something new, something more. And with these colleagues we became friends for the whole life. And then subsequently we made different activities and giving different presentations and publishing some research. And in meetings we came together, and it happened that in 1998 I was nominated to serve on the scientific committee of the European Society of Cardiology. That was a great honor for me at that time and a great opportunity. And then from that year I was working in the society until I became dean, so next 20 years, in different positions. In 2008 I was running in the elections to become president of the society, but it was a good political lesson, because we were 3 candidates for becoming president of the European Society of Cardiology. One was French, one was German, and I was from Czech. I had no chance. It was a very good lesson. I had no chance against German and French. Despite I received in the first round, I received most votes during the elections. But the system is as follows: that there is first election with a certain number of votes, and I had slightly more than the French colleague, and the German was the third. And then we passed through these elections to so-called nominating committee, and we underwent interviews with the nominating committee, and nominating committee decided. So they decided to take the French guy. And then I did in different other situations and positions there. And the last position I had there was chairman of the Council on Stroke. Actually, I founded two things in the European Society of Cardiology. In 2008, I founded, together with Belgian friend William Wines, we founded together Stand for Life initiative. What was basically initiative to implement primary angioplasty for treating of myocardial infarction in those European countries where it was not yet developed in that time. Because Czech Republic was in this respect #1 in Europe, and Belgium and Netherlands were on the same level. So we, with the Belgian colleague, we tried to implement it to other countries. So, for instance, I was training cardiologists in Bulgaria to do acute angioplasty and so on. And then in the last few years I was interested in stroke, in acute stroke, and I founded a body which is called Council on Stroke by the European Society of Cardiology. And I just finished 1 or 2 years ago.
So are strokes today a domain of cardiology or neurology? Or interventional radiology, I don't know.
Yeah, all of them. All of them. Well, very good question although. I like to be provocative in many things. I was provocative some 20 years ago when I started with the Prague trials. Our first study was provocative for all conservative people of older generation. And I was provocative also with stroke. How it became? In 2010, I was in the board of Czech Society of Cardiology, and the president of Czech Society of Cardiology was my very good friend, Professor Chaloupka from Brno. And in that year, 2010, he suffered a severe stroke, and he was in the big university hospital in Brno and was not treated, and since that time he is bed rested, severely incapacitated, and basically as a person he is lost. And that experience influenced all of us so much that we were discussing within cardiology that this has to be changed. We are excellent in treating infarcts, and we are terrible in treating strokes. So what to do with that? And then we started to discuss here in this hospital the situation, and we had a long tradition already, in that time 15 years tradition of treating acute myocardial infarction, but no such treatment for stroke. So then we decided to prepare it, and we started this program in 2012. And I was provocative to all radiologists. I always say that for most European radiologists, I am enemy number one. Because they feel that stroke intervention is their business, and they don't like us cardiologists to go into this business. But I think, and I'm convinced, that there is no such situation, because the need of European patients, stroke patients, are something like 10 times more than the current capacity. So there is a lot of work for all of us, for radiologists and for cardiologists. We shouldn't fight together, we should work together to offer this service to everybody. So I'm slowly pushing this idea through, and just last week I'm not doing it, as I said, I'm not doing it now by my hands. I stopped 1.5 years ago, but I am still pushing this on the logistic level during these societies and during different international discussions.
So right now, if you have a stroke patient and he is moved to a stroke center, then a radiologist handles the
it depends on the country and even on the region. So in the Czech Republic, we have 13 centers offering acute stroke intervention. In 12 of them, it is done by radiologists. And we are the only hospital where it is done in a cardiology department. So we are an exception. In South Africa, my good friend Mark Abelson is the only person in a country which has over 40 million population. He's the only one who can do it, and he is cardiologist. In Pakistan, I have another colleague and friend, and there are two. Pakistan, I think, has some like 90 million population, or even more, maybe more than 100 million. And there are two for such a big country who are able to do this. So, of course, in these countries, everybody who has hands and willingness to do it should do it.
special training for that?
Of course, yeah, of course.
Like for cardiologists who wants to do
Yeah.
this, then
Yeah, we were preparing theoretically for it and logistically, of course, although to train staff and so on. Almost 2 years. When we started, we invited one American. Actually, he is interventional neurologist. So he's neurologist. There are very few interventional neurologists. There are like 20 worldwide. And he came here to work with us for a few days to start with us, and then we went, 3 of us, Dr. Kožnar, who is actually, he's radiologist working in cardiology department, so he's a very important person for us also, and Professor Štětkářová, who is chief of neurology. So 3 of us, we went to United States for 1 month, for Buffalo. Buffalo is one of the best comprehensive stroke centers in US, and we were trained there for 1 month, very intensive training, including simulator. So we were working on a simulator to do the procedures, to become familiar with all the technique and so on.
I have another question, which is not only related to cardiology, but general specialties. So, let's say you're a young doctor, you decided you want to become cardiologist. Is it recommended to do everything until you finally specialize at one hospital, or move and go to different hospitals, maybe also in different countries, to make different experiences? I don't know what different hospitals offering different things, or is it better to stay at one, make a connection there, and get to know this one special hospital as good as possible?
I think I cannot give you a general answer which will be valid for everybody. I think this is very, very individual. As you know, my case, I am 40 years here, so I am somehow related to this hospital. If you are in one hospital, it has definite advantages. If this hospital is big enough to have all specialties on a good standard, so I think that is better option. If that hospital has some good specialty and the other is very poor, then it's probably better to switch the hospitals and to pick up those with good specialties. But it really depends on person and on institution.
Maybe some other trainings abroad, like you said the one in the Netherlands, the one in the US, and
For training, I was in the Netherlands twice. In Rotterdam, actually, I was for research training. So in Rotterdam, I did a lot of experimental research with mini pigs in experimental lab, and with myocardial perfusion and with ultrasound and so on. And then I went from Rotterdam to Zwolle, which was in that time the biggest center in Netherlands, doing the highest volumes of patients. And in that center, I was trained for interventional cardiology. So actually, I underwent both types of training, in the research training and interventional cardiology training. Altogether, I was there 2.5 years. I almost stayed there. It was also a funny story. I was there the first year I was there was 1990, from September 1990 till September 1991. And you are very young, you probably don't remember what happened in August 1991. That was a quite dramatic situation in Russia, in Soviet Union at that time. The Soviet president was Gorbachev in that time, and suddenly he was arrested. And it was almost looking like that the old hardcore communists will come to power again. And that was only less than 2 years after communism finished in Czechoslovakia. And I was in that time working in the Netherlands, and I was offered a permanent job in Rotterdam as a head of coronary care unit. And that was sometimes in May 91. And I said, thank you, professor, but I am very optimistic about development of my home country, so I will go back in September. Thank you for your offer. I don't accept. I knew that I have good chances here, and I like this country very much. And then, okay, he understood, everything was okay. Then in August, I was walking in the corridor, and he was walking against me in the morning, and he said, "Did not you change your mind?" I didn't understand because I was not watching TV, so I didn't know what happened in Soviet Union. Yeah, communists will come back to power in your country. I said, no. If this will happen, is the place still free? Fortunately, the whole story finished after three days, so I'm here. And then when I finished in Zwolle, I had another offer to stay in Zwolle as interventional cardiologist, but that was already the time where I was associated professor here, and I was fixed here, definitely. Yes?
What would you say are the biggest challenges for young doctors starting cardiology? Are there specific challenges?
I think the specific challenge is the time, really. You have to make your decision about how much time you want to put in it. If you decide to put a lot of time, then you will be good. This is just a matter of time. Of course, you need some prerequisites, but most of you have it. The biggest challenge at the beginning, if you start, is the lack of self-confidence. You are nervous, you are afraid that you will kill the patient, and so on. So this is in the beginning. After 2-3 years, in somebody even after 1 year, in somebody after 5 years, but in certain time you become very much self-confident that you are fantastically good. And this is the second challenge. In that time you start your mistakes. I can again tell you a story from my own life. When I was working in interventional cardiology like 5-6 years, I did maybe, I don't know, in that time 1,500, 2,000 coronary angioplasties without any single complication. And we were sitting in the restaurant with colleagues from interventional cardiology group, with Czech colleagues, and we discussed about complications. And I said, I had never a serious complication. Next day, I had death on my table, rupture of right coronary artery. So this was a good lesson to stay down.
Since complications and death is inevitable and it's just a matter of statistics. Yeah. First of all, I know that you do keep precise statistics about which doctor has what complications and how many, and this is a good thing, but it could also cause stress and tension among the team. But the real question that I wanted to ask is, what happens when a doctor has death on the table, and how do the other doctors react? Is there a system in place that somebody hugs the doctor, or how do you react? How do people?
Of course, we know that this can happen to everybody. So if this happens rarely, then we always back up the doctor and try to help. If you do cardiology, you must be prepared for these situations. So you shouldn't be depressed and jumping out of the window. You should just realize that this happens. Of course, the situation is different in my position as a chief of department. I have to control the quality. So, but this has to be done at the beginning. As I said to you, I trained around 20 interventional cardiologists. So at the beginning, I tried to realize who will be good and who not. And if not, I started to push the person out from the cath lab. This is prevention of complications.
Based on statistics?
Well, in that moment, you don't know the statistics, based just on experience and observing the person, how behaves and how it's working. If you are already set as an interventional cardiologist or any other profession, surgeon, whatever, and you are working, you have to realize that these complications come. If the complication comes, you have to be able to recognize it immediately. You have to have enough experience with complications, and you have to make the right diagnosis. This is the secret to save the patient. If you realize what kind of complication this is, how this happened, and then you are frequently able to save the patient. If you recognize the complication late, probably the patient will die. So the time is an issue here. Concerning, you asked maybe mostly about the quality control or about the psychological aspect, or how you mean the question?
About both, but now more about the psychology aspect. How if you train the doctors that they know how to deal with the fact that somebody dies under their hands?
You cannot be trained for that. It is just a matter of coming to that with experience. If this happens, you are always set. You always think again, what I did wrong, could I do something better? But those thoughts should not last too long. Next day you should forget. Otherwise, it will be dangerous for your psychic conditions.
Can you get a debriefing? Is there a debriefing procedure?
Oh yeah, this is a very good point. Debriefing procedures are done frequently. We have, if there is a complication, we have every day during the morning session, as I said, when we sit from 8:30 to 9, we discuss not only patients for cardiac surgery, but we discuss also every single complication. So if there is a complication, we discuss how it happened and what could be done different way and so on. And this is not in a critical way to punish the person, but this is in a constructive way to bring the information to everybody and to fix it next time better.
Can you tell a bit more about your day in the department when you were there as an everyday doctor there?
Sorry?
Can you talk a bit about your everyday life in the department? So at 8:30 you start with a discussion with all the doctors and then because
My or mean cardiologist? Because I am now in a the managing position, so probably my day will be less interesting for you. My day today is that I come there at 7 o'clock or 7:30 in the morning, and I just read letters and doing the paperwork. At 8:30 we have the meeting with our colleagues, and we discussed what just I explained. And after 9 I go to see the difficult patients which are complicated, and we discuss these cases. And then I am ready with this about at 10 o'clock. And then I usually move to here to my dean's office. That's it. One day a week I have still outpatient polyclinic, so I see some complicated patient, and so I do echocardiographic examinations to them. Sometimes I am called to cath lab for consulting difficult cases in cath lab with the colleagues. But now I spend about 70% of my time by the dean position.
And what about an average doctor?
Average cardiologist is coming depending on the position. We have quite strict difference between senior staff and junior staff. So it's very different. So if you are junior staff, this means that you are kind of training fellow or resident. It's called in different countries different ways. And as a resident in training, you go, as I said, you rotate through all these departments and subspecialties. So the young doctor is coming at 7:30 officially. Of course, the time is just approximate. The doctor is coming at 7:30 to the hospital and is seeing the patients in his part. So let's say the doctor is responsible for 8, 10, 12 patients, not more. And so goes, sees which patient is new during the night or during the weekend, and knows to know everything about the patient. Then 8:30 goes down and we discuss all these patients. So each junior doctor should know about his 10 patients and be able to report in the morning session. After that, there is a round where either the doctor himself or with his supervisor or with the head of clinic or deputy head of clinic goes to see the patients in that department. And this takes 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and then goes to discharge the patients and admit new patients. And in the afternoon, usually the doctor can go to, if he or she has some time, can go to learn something more like echocardiography or stress testing or Holter monitoring and so on, or go to cath lab to watch the procedures depending on the time available. So for young doctors, there is a lot of routine. There is also a lot of paperwork because we have a big turnover of patients. We have like 6,000 admissions per year. So we have a big turnover of patients, and then the doctor has also a lot of paperwork. And for senior doctors who are senior staff, they are specialized. So if senior doctor is in the echocardiography lab, she or he is there every day from morning till late afternoon. If he or she is in arrhythmology department, he or she is either implanting pacemaker or doing radiofrequency ablations or analyzing Holter monitors or seeing patients with pacemakers in outpatient polyclinic. So then the senior doctors are specialized already on some part of cardiology only. No more questions?
Ask, okay, so if I have my heart set on becoming an interventional cardiologist, and then you deem me unworthy, so how difficult is the transition to like another subspecialty, or is it difficult at all?
How difficult transition from what?
Like, okay, like, so if I can't do interventional cardiology, then what are the other options, I guess? Like,
You are in which school year now? You are in fifth year?
yes.
And do you speak about now or about after a couple of years?
No, after school. Like, I start working in a cardiology department, and then, okay, not only interventional cardiology, but cardiology in general. Like, if I find out that it's too demanding and I can't handle it, so
I think you can handle it definitely. Depends. If you want to be only interventional cardiologist and not to do anything else from cardiology, then this may be difficult. But you can do it. If it is your dream, if you are prepared to give the time to it, why not? You can do it. You have to be, you have to believe in it. And if you believe in something and you love it, you are successful. It's mental thing and time thing, of course. Other procedures which are done in similar way are, of course, interventional radiology. Interventional radiology is something very similar, and acute stroke is today really rocketing program. So in interventional neuroradiologists, they will be more than needed. So if you want to be interventional neurologist, they have much less work than cardiologists. The mean cardiologist is doing per year like 500, 700 procedures. The mean neurologist is doing like 100, 150 per year.
Why? Because they have much less access to.
Because basically neuroradiologists they do strokes. There are many, but far not as many as infarct so far, and they do few aneurysms coilings. And basically that's it. So they have few procedures, and aneurysm coilings, there are few patients. So basically most work of interventional radiologist, neuroradiologist is stroke. And cardiologists, they have of course all these thousands of patients with acute coronary syndromes and stable angina and so on, and now also valves, aortic stenosis, TAVI. So the volume of patients done by cardiologists is several times higher than done by interventional neuroradiologists.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
Your field, interventional cardiology, it seems to an outsider to be very technology and industry driven. You all the armaments, all the instruments you use, they come from big companies. It's that come every couple of years. They come with new ideas, new stents, new this, new that. How much are you able to influence that process, and do you take part in design of new technologies, of new ways of doing things? Is it only one way road, or?
It is definitely interaction. Not in my case. I am not involved in this. I am more interested in logistics of care, in patient care, and less in technology. But many interventional cardiologists are participating as external advisors to different companies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there is feedback that you
Yeah.
can.
So during your career, of course, you had some bad moments, and like, could you tell us in a way that like how you overcome those moments, like those struggles and stuff, and at any moment you realize, oh, this is hard, or or first it's harder. If you ever felt that you didn't fulfill your expectations.
I'm thinking whether I had such a moment. I must say that I did not have a critical moment in my professional life where I would completely